Welcome to the Blind Apex Podcast, where amateur club racers tune in to get faster.
This episode is brought to you by Deechworks Fuel Systems. Visit deechworks.com for all your fuel system needs. If you'd like to support the podcast, please rate, review, share, all that jazz on your favorite podcasting platform. As always, I'm your host, Con Jonturk, and on this episode, we're going to do a Hyperfest recap and talk about some trailer upgrades my guest has done. Returning to the podcast, former NASA Mid-Atlantic Honda Challenge H2 regional champion, instructor, a dad who corrupts his son by making him listen to this podcast. That's good parenting right there. Steve Brown, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. Good to be here. And I didn't pick him listening to the podcast. He did that. Oh. And the weird part is that it happens during bath time.
Well, he's got good taste, and, it's soothing. Learn about race cars while taking a bath.
It's either that or who does Rebel?
All right, Steve. So what have you been up to this year since, you haven't been on the podcast most recently, but you haven't been racing either. So what have you been up to these days?
Yeah, so last year at Hyperfest, I had a rod bearing issue on my engine, so that necessitated basically a full rebuild. And that took me out of the game for a while. It wasn't ready in March, so I chose to instruct on the off chance that I got the car ready, but I didn't want to thrash and make mistakes going into the first event of the year. After all that downtime, I wanted to make sure things were done right. So I showed up at March with no car, did some instructing. At least I was back at the track and on track in some capacity. And then the car was ready in April for Summit Point. And so I chose to instruct again because I wanted a shakedown event. I wanted to see where I was, where the car was, if we were on pace, how much quicker it was, because it was down on power before, and now we're at the horsepower cap, so it should be pretty close. And it is a lot better. But there's still some work to do on me and a little bit to do on the car. And so for Hyperfest, I chose to instruct again, mostly because it's an easy way to feel out the car and reduce the event cost. Mm-hmm. And then they had some kind of generous options if you wanted to do Patriot instructing this year. So I haven't worked out the paperwork for it, but other instructors said that they were getting their end kind of followed through on some discount Toyos, pretty significant discount. You can get up to 4 tires that way. And then I think there was also mention of a free set of brake pads. So
nice. I
figured that would likely be more contingency than I'd be likely to get at the back of the grid for the event. So, that plus, you basically get free track time Friday and Saturday. It seemed pretty compelling, because I hadn't taken the car to VIR, so I didn't know what it would do here. And, that was the call on how I ended up, registering for those events. I still don't know if I'm going to register for racing, in June or not.
Boo. Race. You must race.
I'm really tempted to go ahead and race. But there's some things I want to get done. And looking at some of the family schedules for the next few weekends before then, mm-hmm. I don't know if I'll get those done. And I want to be within kind of a certain range of kind of the main meat of our pack before I say, let's go racing again. I know other people have other opinions about you don't get faster not racing. But I'm looking at often a pretty significant gap between me and the rest of our class. So, I'll look at the entry list, and if there's people that I think that I can play with, I'll be more likely to sign up. Well, is I think how it's going to shake out.
Not to also sound like the person that says you need to race to get faster, but lots of people have taken major jumps recently. So some of the folks you think you might
I've seen that.
be with, you may not be with. We even got Mang out there, and we were working
I just want to be
car.
within like 2 seconds.
2 seconds of who?
Yeah.
Who do you want to be with?
I want somebody who I think... I don't care.
Okay.
As long as like somebody's running something within about 2 seconds of what I know I can run, or what I ran last time out, then I'm going to say, okay, we have a shot to at least see somebody for more than the first lap.
Right.
But once I can't see anybody and chase them, you're just kind of out there on your own.
This is the detriment of getting rid of Beast of the East in the NASA Mid-Atlantic region. I know the first couple of years that I was racing, Beast of the East helped me. And for those that don't know, it's a re-rank of everyone in Lightning. So Spec Miatas, Honda Challenge, Spec E30s, Spec 3s, Super Touring 5s and 6s, and you're rated and ranked by lap time. You're regrouped, you're color-coded as a group, and you basically go out in colored group packs. Okay? Used to be a Sunday morning race, and it really helps you. When I was in a no man's land, or I signed up for an event that no one was around me, it really helped me get faster, and then I started seeing more time in the Sunday afternoon race. We no longer do that anymore, and I think it's bad. Chris Cabetto, if you're listening, it's a bad idea. Bring it back. But
yeah, I know for me, my rookie year, that was like I was way off pace because half the time the car didn't have VTEC or it was down 10 or more horsepower. And Beast of the East was consistently the best track time I would get all weekend.
yeah, it really is.
I mean, yeah, it's interclass and like you don't want to mess things up with people outside of your class. But when you're trying to work your way out of being basically a back marker in your class and into the main pack, it was a pretty effective way to put us on track to build skill sets, and a lot of people who needed to work on that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I was actually fortunate. I was looking at the list this weekend, and I thought I was going to be the lone mid-pack racer because of who showed up. So
your times were pretty good, I thought.
They were decent.
I mean, you had
you
had a decent fight going on for third on Saturday for a little while.
Yeah, for a while. Fight for third, finish fourth, those kinds of things. It was good, but some people could have been a little faster. Some people didn't work on their cars and finish the weekend. There was attrition in front of me. So while my results were decent, they could have been worse. They probably should have been worse. Better than I thought I was going to do, even if there was no attrition issues, but still not where I want to be. So, but I enjoyed fighting with the guys that were around me. So, and we definitely put in some good shows, so in my opinion, but we'll get into that later. Let's talk about Hyperfest in the gate experience. This is everybody's woe from last year. 2023 Hyperfest, everyone complained about the gate entry and no one cried about perfect weather. So how was your gate experience?
Yeah. I came in, I think, about 7 o'clock on Thursday, and I think that took me all of 5 minutes. It was mega smooth. So hats off to all the work that they do to try and iron that process out, because I know it's a lot and the event keeps growing and managing that gets harder every year. So big props to them for, not having people wait around, having clear instructions on where to go. The QR codes that were scannable were a big help.
Yep.
Because that basically meant I didn't get out of my truck. Last year, I think I pulled up, we waited in line for a while, then we walked over to a camper trailer thing, and we waited around behind that for close to an hour, and then we maybe got something, I don't quite remember how it worked, And then eventually we got to go back to our trucks and go wait in the south paddock, kind of holding area till the paddock opened at 6. So that was a lot more delayed. Maybe because I got there earlier and I was more into the main initial rush. And maybe I dodged that this year by getting there at 7, but my experience at the gate was fantastic.
I would concur. There's lots of little things they can refine. Part of it could be when I showed up. I showed up just after the gates opened for racers to enter, and maybe they had brand new staff. But I went to a post, the gate entry area, and my post had 10 people and one person working. I thought I was back at the federal government working. So I'm sure they had to speed that up. There were initial complaints about, reports, not even complaints, just reports that the traffic had backed up to the county road. But even Mr. Bradfield said it was the smoothest he's ever gotten into a Hyperfest. So I think they fixed that issue.
Yeah. I will say it's not,
Go ahead.
an event like this isn't typically without hiccups. I know I had a number of them with regards to what I was doing for instructing that weekend. Mm-hmm. So you show up and you sort of expect that if you're in a specific group that you'll kind of know where to go. You either go to registration or you hear some instruction on what to do in the gate via email or something else ahead of time. In my case, I went to registration. They didn't have the packets for the Patriot instructors. I went to the instructor meeting Saturday morning, which I didn't have to go to, but I was able to get my wristband to get out on track for Saturday that way. I did get a Friday wristband at registration, but they had no packets. So that meant no Saturday wristband, no drink wristbands, no schedule. We also had 3 schedules at Patriot, and none of them matched. So it's a smaller group of people who are affected by that, and it's kind of a niche thing for the weekend. So that's kind of where you expect to see some of the schedule communication breakdowns and things like that. I know there was one schedule that had us going to 6 o'clock on Sunday,
right.
And then it became pretty clear with the grid guys on Patriot that the last one was at 3:30 or 4 or something. So there's some discrepancies there. But overall, it was pretty good. I think a big part of my issue was that my emails from the person coordinating the Patriot instructing were going to my junk mail folder, and I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that can be rough.
I'm not without fault there. But yeah, overall entry on the gate is really good. The weather was spotty this weekend, but sometimes it rains. We don't have, despite what some people think, we don't have full control over the weather.
Yeah. So I want to actually get into that. I may have glanced over it or maybe taken it for granted when I did the How to Survive Hyperfest. We're not, even NASCAR does it now. So we race in anything. Whatever the weather is going to be, the literal only weather that shuts us down is tornadoes and lightning. Okay? So we're out there. I know participants are camping and things. Guess what? I am too. I'm in a tent. I make my own high ground. I add extra layers of weatherproofing with a pop-up and a tarp and stuff. And that's how we always get through it. I've done it through HPDE and my 5 years of racing. That's how I've done it. I don't have an enclosed trailer to hide in. When I look at the forecast and it's not sunshine and, sunny all the time and nice weather, I just know that I need to bring certain things and that I might be wet most of the weekend. I make the best of it. It's not a big deal to me. But I think there's a lot of people who are like, oh, they made me move. I don't know if they realize that. Campers had to move. There was an inch and a half of water that came through Friday night at the racetrack. An inch and a half.
I know.
That's after a week of rain.
One of my students on Sunday talked about waking up like Saturday morning, and they put their hand down, because I think they're on a cot or something in their tent. They put their hand down on the tarp in the bottom of the tent, and it's just sort of floating, and it's like a waterbed for them, because there was like an inch or more water just standing where they were, because they were in the woods by the pond, which, by the way, don't camp in low-lying areas. Don't camp in areas that look like there's no grass and it's just a bunch of rocks and little channel-y type things. That means water flows there when it rains, so you'll get extra flooded if you choose to camp there in the rain. But, a lot of those things, people have to learn the hard way, through experience doing camping and stuff. And I would bet you most of the attendees are not like outdoorsy camper types. They want to show up, they want to hang out, they'll pitch a tent to keep the sun off of them and to kind of have some place to put their stuff. But if you haven't camped in the rain and camped in all weather, it might be a new experience and you might learn some lessons. I know when I was doing HPD, I was a camper. I'd drive my car to the track, pitch a tent behind it, and, hope for the best. My tent flooding 3 times in a year was the catalyst that made me buy a Suburban and an open trailer, and then I slept in the Suburban. And the Suburban never flooded because it's a foot off the ground and made of metal.
Well, lucky you then. I mean, people need to learn.
I mean, I stepped up since then to enclosed.
Oh, yeah. And you're trying to get
one of the nice things about an enclosed trailer is if you get all wet, you have a nice big space where you can hang up stuff to dry.
And it's a dry space, right?
Where are you going to hang it up to dry?
Nowhere. Even under my 13 by 13 canopy, you can't hang it up to dry because the air that it's surrounded by is so humid, right? You can run your AC or whatever you have in your enclosed trailer and sort of knock that down, and it's truly dry, right? The ground you're stepping on isn't wet anymore. That's you spoiled racers. You guys get good night's sleep and all that jazz, and have AC and heat and things, and I just lay.
And you can close the door and you can stand up completely vertically and change your clothes when you need to. Yep. It's really luxury things. Well, I do it anyway. I just do it under my 13 by 13. And if you're up at 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, you might see me changing. So whatever. It's cool.
I have no shame. It's fine.
You got to do what you got to do.
Right. So let's get into
It's cool. No judgment here.
Let's get into the racing a little bit. I was signed up to do HFGT, so I want to cover HFGT first because there was some controversy, and I've started helping with compliance with NASA Mid-Atlantic. Only Thunder. No, I won't be doing compliance on Lightning stuff, so there's no conflict of interest there. But HFGT qualifying was on Friday. That's when all the events got moved around, right? So we had the Coney Downhill and the Burnout contest got moved from Saturday night to Friday afternoon, evening. And we had to qualify. Yeah,
I think it was the same time of day, just a day early.
Yeah. And the reason it got moved, guys, is because they thought the forecast, which is a prediction, not a promise, the forecast said lightning. Well, they're going to have to shut down 30 minutes at a time. Every time a new lightning strike occurs on the radar, it resets the clock. It can go indefinitely. It could have never happened. And so that's why I think everybody, literally everyone...
And I think we did have...
Did we have a shutdown?
We didn't have a shutdown, but I was doing something in the paddock Saturday evening, and I heard the PA say something about lightning 8 miles away, go seek shelter. So, they still would have had to deal with that. Just we didn't get hit by the mega thunderstorm that it looked like we were going to have.
Right. But this is why we're recording the day after Hyperfest. I know you were doing work. I don't work the day after Hyperfest. I don't go to work. I leave I'm off Thursday through Monday for Hyperfest as a racer. If I were somebody who was going to attend, you can guarantee I would at least be off on Friday and be there early Friday morning to get in. And that's no matter what the weather pattern was going to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of the people I knew who come to spectate, they come in Thursday night.
Okay.
But later than I do. And that's just because they've been doing this for, probably more than a decade at this point, like I have, and we know that
they're veterans.
Things happen on Friday that are fun and you want to be there, so show up Thursday. Having said that, they leave pretty early Sunday, so they're not really beat up like we are, packing up our race cars and stuff Sunday afternoon and trying to get home and unload when you get home and all that stuff. So
that's fair.
I think it's easier for a lot of the spectator type folks to still go to work on Monday. But I get where you're coming from, taking the day off on the following Monday. I've definitely been a little bit busy today managing some unload things and all my normal day job things.
Yeah. So HFGT qualifying was Friday afternoon, and let's just say things were very cloudy, semi-sprinkly before the qualifying session itself, and the grass and stuff was definitely wet. HFGT qualifying lasted 3 laps maybe, and that includes the double yellow pace lap. We were black flagged for that event. Like, they shut it down. Somebody went into the wall. So we had qualifying times. They were ridiculous. Well, maybe. I ran a 220 waiting for my tires to come in the cold, in the damp.
Yeah.
The pole sitter ran a 216.9. He ran 216.9 for H2. He ran 216.9. And let's see, overall, it doesn't say. I'm clicking around on Race Hero. If you guys are into racing and you're going to go spectate, get Race Hero because it'll help you follow what's going along. Yeah, I mean, in H2, Baker was the fastest at a 216.9. And we all got shut down early. I was shocked because I saw a 220 in the black flag, and I was like, I'm dead last. And then to come out, technically I qualified third.
Yeah, but you...
For H2 anyway. But
yeah, I mean, that's what happens when people don't get their stuff up to temperature.
Yeah.
The times are going to be really weird.
I think my actual HFGT qualifying spot was like 26th. Something weird. But they have lots of big, fast cars. So if we have a fighting chance in HFGT, you have to put the heat down early. And in our cars, we have to be up to temp and really flying, really stringing it all together to have a chance. Because we have the biggest margin for error when we're the lower horsepower cars. Saturday was the HFGT.
Now, are you talking Lightning qualifying?
Oh, I think I did download Lightning qualifying. HFGT, that's the results. I don't have HFGT qualifying on my results. That's weird. I know it was cut short because the timing was terrible for qualifying. But
yeah, I had some sessions like that as well.
But our qualifying in the morning was also cut short, so maybe that's when I ran the 220. But either way, the HFGT race on Saturday, I wanted to talk about it because let's call it controversial. There was a Kaizen Motorsports Integra Type R, no, just a regular Integra, but with a K24 swap. Hoosiers, Aero, all that jazz. There was Ryan Bradfield in his brand new H1 TSX. There was later in the race, about 3/4 of the way into the race, a GTS 3 M3 entered the fray. And so it's a little weird. first it was a little weird because the qualifying orders, things got changed around, but the battles were great, right? The Integra and Ryan Bradfield in the H1 on Toyos, not Hoosiers, H1 TSX, they were battling hardcore. I mean, lap after lap after lap. And then slowly you see this M3 on Hoosiers also start to reel them in. Okay. They were obviously pushing each other and battling through. And then finally the M3 overtakes Ryan Bradfield, and it's basically a three-way run at first place for HFGT.
So can I ask you where you were watching from?
Okay, so I was watching.
So where were you watching
I was watching from the top of the roller coaster. So, well, not the top, but I was watching at the roller coaster.
Okay. I was at the bottom of the roller coaster, kind of right where that gate is, behind the bathrooms to get back to watch like Hog Pen and roller coaster and things. So we had, I think, similar views, but I saw more of the end and you probably saw more of the lead up.
Yeah, I definitely saw the lead up. So, essentially what occurred was NASA rules say you get space when you're executing a pass, when your front bumper is on the door or next to the door of the car you are trying to pass. As the overtaking car, you are required to, as the car being overtaken, you're required to give space. But if you're the one passing, you have to do it cleanly. Okay. Ryan at this point was maybe 3 or 4 car lengths behind them, the two of them. The M3 had probably just gotten around. I couldn't see where the M3 had gotten around the Integra coming off the back straight, but entering the top of the carousel, what is that, 14, 15 area? Turn 14, turn 15.
End of the back straight's 14.
Yeah, so I think it was 15. It's sort of one big brake / turning area. The Integra gained the door position and immediately touched the door of the M3 and sent him off the track, which means the pass was not executed
cleanly. Yeah, I saw
cleanly.
him coming through 15, and the M3 was on his outside, slightly ahead, and Integra looked like he just sort of elbows out and drove to the rumble strips and didn't give him the amount that we're supposed to give, which I think is what?
3/4.
3/4 of a car width or something?
Yep, 3/4 of a car width.
Including the rumble strips?
But not only I don't think he ran him off on purpose necessarily. He didn't. I believe from where I was, it looked like his brakes locked up. But it's your job as the passing car to do it cleanly. The race ends. It looks like it's the Integra, the M3, and then Ryan in third. They're handing out awards and stuff. And I'm begging Ryan to provide his video.
The M3 got back around Ryan? Because
I
remember Ryan almost collecting the M3, but he seemed like he had plenty of time to keep an eye on him spinning through the grass and coming across a roller coaster, so there was no further incident there, but it was definitely something where Ryan did big adjustments to where he was going to make sure that there was no
Actually,
contact.
I'm pretty sure Ryan was second.
And so after that, because I think that M3 lost a whole lot of ground being kind of stationary to Ryan actually having a run.
Yeah, so I think the finishing order was Integra, TSX, M3. But after video review, the Integra was knocked down a position for gaining a position with that move, and Ryan ended up a H1 car on Toyos, down horsepower, was able to win the HFGT race. I think that's a big show for what Honda Challenge has.
Yeah, I think so. It's not easy to kind of throw your car into a different class like that. And obviously some people are going to make more adjustments to kind of be at the limit of that other class than others. I don't think Ryan really did anything other than take his H1 spec car out there and see what it would do.
Yeah, he was doing great.
And it's hard to say with it. I was going to say it's hard to say with it still being pretty early in that series to guess how much people are doing to, optimize the car. I think, some of those people are probably throwing Hoosiers on that they maybe didn't normally run.
Right. And that requires a setup
and maybe
change.
Doing some things with ballast, but that's probably about it.
Switching from a Toyo to a Hoosier is going to require a suspension change. So I don't recommend that, but yeah. So that was a great testament. Not only that, but track dad Michael Young was out there with an H2 car. Oh man, I should pull up. I'm not in the results, so I can't find the results that quickly. He was at least in the middle of the pack with an H2 car, and he was running the living tar out of that car. It was screaming its head off when it was coming down the roller coaster. He was cutting it no slack. So kudos to him. He's gobbling up all the track time he can get. He is improving every time he touches the track. I believe he also set his personal best and was pretty close to, reigning H2 national champion Jonathan Baker as far as single lap time. So, kudos to him. But let's see.
Yeah, it's not easy to keep that progression going, depending on what you're in.
Yeah, not at all. So, race 1. Look, just like the spectators got to deal with scheduling changes, racers have to deal with it too. I'll tell you, it's a real hit on the chin when I prep the car for Saturday on Friday night. I go to the Saturday morning drivers meeting, and I'm told that we no longer have a practice, qualifying, and race. We're about to have a qualifying, a race 1 for points, and a race 2 that will be a fun race. I set my car up with fuel to make sure I never come off the race. Saturday, I never come off the track too light, so I was full of gas, and I knew I was going to be too full of gas to race in the middle of the day. That's normally my qualifying gas weight. So, but I just took it, right? What am I supposed to do with that? We drained the tank. I'm not doing that at the racetrack. So I just learned to live with it. So, Saturday morning lightning race, I got to battle with Morgan Ziegler. I haven't seen him in a long, long time. He came back after many, well, it feels like many years. I think it's only been like 2 years off. But he came back, and he had most of his skills back. I know he's faster than he was driving, but it was great to race with him. We had a little contact, not me and him, but there was a little H2 debacle on turn 1 after the green flag dropped, where Brent and Holden made contact, and we all went our separate ways. And then Brent came back, Holden came back. It ended up finishing Baker, Holden, Morgan, myself, Brent, Sam, Holden's brother, Brian Mang, Zephyr, shout out to Zephyr for driving all the way down from New Jersey for this. And then our rookie Pete, and then Mike must have had an issue. I think he was having a TPMS issue, so he ended up 10th.
Yeah, I think Mike pulled off in the first lap or so.
Yeah.
Because I didn't see him come around after the first lap.
He had multiple issues this weekend, and he was able to overcome most of them. I think in the first race, that's actually when his splitter came off. He forgot to tighten his splitter bolts down. So that's in Honda Challenge H2. Ooh. H1, Ryan went out, won the whole thing. Kevin Helms had a wastegate issue in his Civic Type R, and he only completed 1 lap, and that was it. Actually, I don't think he completed that lap. He pulled in off the pace lap. It has him credited for 1 lap, but no time.
Yeah, he pulled in off the pace lap.
Specky 30.
Yeah, I think he tripped the timing lights when he came in.
Oh, probably. Specky 30, Jack Cabetto, Jason Krasvanage, and James Hauser were the top 3. Spec Miata, Ben Mayer, Spencer Conrad, Casper Zentmeyer, that were their top 3. Spec 3, Andreas Schmidt, Taylor Johnson, Jake Thuis, all the top 3 there. Super Touring 5, there are only 3 of them. My biggest shout out to any of the Super Touring 5 guys is Alex Carty. He sat back and watched Morgan and I race and did not jump in the middle of it under a braking zone, which they can definitely do. They got Hoosiers and crazy ABS, and he watched a good time, and I appreciate that. So I know he listens, so I appreciate it. Thanks, man. Let's go to, what is this? Which one am I looking at now? 18. Yeah, 19. So the morning race, Sunday morning race showed up. Ryan had enough. When you win HFGT, you get sprayed with like 8 bottles of champagne. You party all night at Hyperfest and stuff. Your car blows an axle, and your car is so new you don't have enough spares. There were no H1 cars, so the TSX was out with an axle issue. The CTR was out with a wastegate issue. So in Honda Challenge 2, we had Jonathan Baker, Holden, and Brent. I followed in 4th. Michael Young, Sam, Zephyr, Brian, and Morgan. Pete was last. Actually, the spec...
Well, Pete was fighting his own issues all the
Yeah,
time.
so he had... it's that stupid speed sensor on the transmission ended up being his problem, and aftermarket one did not fix it. So it looks like most of the other classes were finishing in similar orders. I race on the same time with them, so I can't tell what issues they were having. I know that I don't know. I was Sunday morning. I wasn't by myself, but it felt like I was by myself. So we got stacked up a couple times. There were a lot of double yellows this weekend for us, so we got stacked up a couple times. It was a challenge, needless to say. So
yeah, I saw that a little bit while riding in a passenger or as an instructor around Patriot. I'd kind of keep tabs on what group was out and say, okay, it's the race group. Okay, they're on the pace lap. Cool, they're green. Oh no, they're double yellow again. What happened? I think one time in the Thunder race I saw waving yellows at the top of the roller coaster on Sunday, so I then expected to see the double yellow after that. But it's kind of limited what you can pay attention to on the main track when you're instructing on the little track.
Yeah, I was... that was Sunday morning, so Sunday morning, Morgan and I were battling pretty closely, and Morgan blew up an engine. If anybody has B18C5 parts laying around, let us know. We're trying to get him back in racing soon. So, yeah, we don't know the extent of what's going on.
What did he blow
We don't
up?
know.
Do we know?
My video shows a big puff of smoke coming out the exhaust, but his block is not windowed, and he was just going to take it home and take it apart and see what's going on. But he didn't want to do it trackside Sunday morning and make a bigger mess out of things. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's understandable.
But so,
That's a bummer for him, because I know about engine failures at Hyperfest quite well, actually.
yeah, it's tough, isn't it? I mean, yeah. Anyway, yeah, so that's how I moved up from 5th to 4th, was because he blew up right before I was going to try to make a run on him on the last lap to hit. I was going to try to make a run on him in hog pen. So I'd given myself just a little space. And he blew up, immediately. He did the right thing and pulled off. What I skipped was the fun race on Saturday. And I want to tell you that only 2 people went out. But every single one of us who was racing that chose to sit out the fun race, personally, I didn't want to. I cut a tire and missed the HFGT race when I finished Saturday morning because I couldn't get everything swapped over in time. I was tired of. Basically, I'm eating up consumables at a higher rate in this car, so it's a little less likely you'll see me in a fun race. So if there's no points or no contingency on the line, I likely won't be racing unless it's a dedicated testing day for me. But Zephyr and Brian Mang went out, so 2 totally different cars. 2 guys who have been around NASA for a long, long time. Zephyr's been racing Honda Challenge, I think he said 21 years or something like that. And then Brian Mang, who's been an instructor turned racer, he's been there forever. I mean, since we got out of college, he's been doing it. So back in 2002, 2003, those guys were running their hearts out. A 9th gen Civic and an old DC2 Integra. And they were looking like they had the most fun they could have, and they were actually pretty close to each other in the grand scheme of things. I think they were both running 2:15.2s or something like that during the race. So they were pretty close to each other in the grand scheme of things. So a lot of fun there. Let me go over Sunday afternoon. Sunday afternoon, attrition had kicked in. Christopher Michaels was out. Pete was out because Pete ended up crashing on the Sunday morning race. Lots of things that occurred.
Oh, no.
So the finish was Jonathan Baker, Brent Bauer, Michael Young, myself, Brian Mang, and then Zephyr. A couple people blew up, a couple people needed to go home early. It's long race weekend for a lot of folks. Got to get back to family. So, So a great weekend, at least for a Honda Challenge. It was great to see a bunch of people. Lots of people came by. Zephyr drove down from the Northeast, from New Jersey, just to come race with us. John and Tony from 91 Octane,
that was pretty cool.
Flew in. Jaime from Race FF, they all flew in. They flew in just to watch, And they all commented that their biggest regret was not like renting a car to get on track. So you can bet you're probably going to see them next year, and they're probably going to rent a car to do HPDE, and because they're like, how did we end up at VIR and not drive? So, but kudos to them for dedicating the time, the money, the resources, and all that to come out, check it out, had a good time. Got to see the Honda Challenge family, even though, 91 Octane's more Mustangs and BMWs than anything else. But yeah, good times were had by all. Jaime, that dude, I had to make sure he got back to California because somewhere at Sunday night he was told that his Spirit Airlines didn't go through, and so he had to run across Charlotte Airport to go find an American Airlines flight or something like that to get home. So he had a rough time getting there and a rough time getting home. But I won't pick up a sponsorship by Spirit Airlines.
So that's good.
I'm not worried about bad mouthing them if we have to get into that. But anyway,
well, if you start flying away to races, let me know.
I don't have that kind of money, no matter what.
But it was really good seeing those guys. It was good to see those guys come out. I know it's a huge trip, but maybe I'll try and go out to California and rent a car out there one day. I don't know.
Yeah, let me know if you're going to make that trip, because I'll go too. I feel like I owe it to them to go out and experience some of the stuff that they do. Their $100 track days on the West Coast seem a little cheap, so might be easy to get over there and rent something. So
yeah, if we compare that to some of the prices we see locally to us to get on track, it might cover the flight.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Yeah. Oh, no, it won't, might not. It will. The price of the flight and their $200 or $100 track day, you know, it's probably, you know, it's a wash. So, but it was great to see those guys. They are hilarious on their podcast, but also in person. Great folks. So thanks for coming out. I hope you enjoyed the carnet and the hospitality that Honda Challenge likes to offer. One thing I really want to talk about with you is your trailer setup, because you're getting fancier with it. And I know your motivations. I don't know if you want to get into your motivations, but we could not name names in the motivations.
Yeah. I'll start out by saying that, when I was shopping for trailers, there was one guy who had a old, deep cycle battery and a little 30-watt solar charger, and he swore by it because it kept the battery charged up all the time, and he had his interior lights on, and he said those are the greatest thing since sliced bread. And so that had kind of been bouncing around in my head, and when I first got the trailer to run different things in the trailer, I would, especially the 110 appliances, like inflating your air mattress, doing other things that don't take a ton of power, but you need them. I'd run an extension cord from an inverter that plugged into the cigarette outlet on my truck, down the side of the truck, into the trailer, and, I'd have lights being powered by that. I'd inflate the air mattress and stuff like that. It was kind of cumbersome. And then sometimes you'd have shore power, because I have a 12-volt power supply to kind of pretend to be a battery that runs off 110. And that ran my lights and some other stuff like that. And that was okay, but I really wanted that to be a little bit more self-contained. When I'm loading or unloading at night, I don't really have lights in the trailer and things like that unless I run an extension cord from the house to the street, and that's kind of lame. So I'd kind of been thinking about a solar setup. And the same thing with a generator. I still wouldn't have that when I'd load and unload. So the solar setup was looking more and more appealing. And the initial concept was, I'll get a little $40 kit on Amazon, or I'll have a 30-watt solar panel. I'll grab some old batteries from work, because we have a bunch of sealed 100 amp hour lead acid batteries that we use for outdoor cabinets for outdoor notifications. And we cycle through those a lot in our test lab. And so I was just going to see if some of the 16 that we were throwing out earlier this year or late last year were still good enough to use for trailer lights. And then things started to snowball. So I got it in my head that I wanted to run a mini fridge. So I need enough battery to run a mini fridge for 4 days.
Okay.
Or you need more solar to, feed into that to keep it functional for that amount of time. So that was a big kind of long-term current draw that makes your battery bank size go up considerably. So first I was thinking 2 or 400 amp hour batteries from work would work. Turns out they got thrown out before I could really get going on this project. And then once the battery bank's really big, then you really should have an inverter that, can give you those big short-term burst loads, like a shop vac, an air compressor, a microwave. And so my very cheap $40 setup with used batteries quickly turned into a more complicated off-the-shelf lithium-ion battery that's 230 amp hours and a couple of 175-watt solar panels and a 2,000-watt inverter and a decent solar charge controller to kind of let everything feed in correctly and also be able to monitor what the system is doing performance-wise. And that, I finally finished it the weekend before Hyperfest. And it worked pretty well, especially considering that it was cloudy and rainy for a lot of it. It's kind of a worst case scenario on, current draw and the inability to backfeed the battery back up.
Yeah.
things in the fridge stayed cold and frozen all weekend. I had lights when I needed them. I had other power when I needed that. I could charge everything, no problem. And I don't have to pay certain tracks what I feel is a bit of a high price for electricity that is often hard to get even if you do pay for it, because, you know, a lot of times you go through the gate and they say, do you want electricity? And you say yes, and they say pay here. And then you go back and you say, I couldn't get any power, it's all taken. They say tough luck.
Yep.
And even then, even if you got it, it would be kind of overpriced. So part of my motivation was being willing to spend rather a good chunk of money to not feel like somebody was ripping me off.
So let's can we go through the?
We ended up spending.
Yeah, let's go through the price and what you bought.
Yeah, so overall, I spent about half of what it would cost to get not half, like 2/3 of the cost of a nice Honda generator, like a 3,000 watt.
Okay.
Or like a 3,000 watt Honda generator. So the solar charge controller, with the little Bluetooth adapter deal, so that you can look at what it's doing on your phone, that was $210. That's a Victron 150, so it can take in 100 volts of solar, and it can output 50 amps to the battery bank. With our setup right now, I can double the solar panels on that without changing any other component. So if I do an upgrade, that'll probably be what happens next.
I would recommend that.
Past that, I would need to make the battery bank a higher voltage.
Okay.
Then there was a $10 battery fuse on Amazon, came with the holder for it. There was a $10 little roof penetration thing to get the cables from the solar panel into the trailer. It's about $30 in solar panel wiring, which came pre-terminated with the little waterproof connectors that seem to be the industry standard, or at least the standard that you see all these solar panels sold with. The 2,000 watt inverter is from Renogy. That was about $270. Yeah. The solar panels, they're flexible, which we'll see how those hold up over time. The reason for going with the flexible ones is that my trailer, at least, is not a walkable roof. It's a floppy sheet of aluminum. And in my non-engineer head, floppy structure for the roof plus floppy solar panel equals not broken.
Yeah.
Floppy roof plus rigid solar panel would mean I have to add a lot more structure to make sure that the rigid things don't move and that you don't work a hole into your floppy roof as you're going down the road and stuff like that. So there's some concerns about longevity with this approach, but it's pretty clean. I just installed it with some RV roof repair tape, and so far so good. Nothing happened on the drive down, but that tape is still pretty new. We'll see how it looks in a year or two. And then the battery's kind of a significant cost, so that was $600. You can go cheaper if you build your own, but I had a rare moment where I decided I had enough projects on my belt, or on my plate, and I decided I'm just going to buy the battery, and we're not going to worry about that little side project, which I'm glad I did, because there's still a lot of other projects that I want to do, particularly around the race car, that that time's got to come from somewhere. So choosing when to just buy a solution instead of making a project for yourself is sometimes the right call, I think.
Yeah. So I'm interested in this project because one day I will own an enclosed trailer, and I want it to also be self-sufficient. Maybe not for the same reasons that you did, but it can't hurt. I just sort of don't want... I've seen the mess that gets made, right? I've seen the trouble at even tracks that don't charge that much and guarantee you hookup. Sometimes it's not reliable, right? And the nights are 80% humidity and 100 degrees, and that's the day you don't want to be without air conditioning, especially once you get used to it. So I'm looking. I have a different setup. I will have a different setup. I have most of it already, even before I have a enclosed trailer, because I use it to power our stuff while we're hobo camping, like I normally do with a tent and a tarp and an easy up, right? I haven't figured out how I'm going to mount my panels and how I'm going to put them out, while we're in the paddock. But I have four 100-watt EcoFlow panels, and I have an EcoFlow Delta 2 with a Delta Max spare battery. So I have, 3,000 watt hours. So I don't know what that is in amp hours. Let me do the math real fast. Because it mostly lives in 12 volt life. So it's like 3,024. It's 250 amp hours that I have of power. How much did you say you had again?
Mine's 230.
Okay. And you can run lights in your refrigerator?
I can run lights, my fridge.
This was the worst weekend to test it.
I can do my shop vac. I can do a microwave. I can do my air compressor. It was a good test, though, because, I don't think I got better than half performance most of the days this weekend.
Yeah, because
some days less than half of what I would get on a sunny day.
Even when, moisture wasn't falling from the sky, it was cloudy.
It was cloudy pretty much the whole
weekend. We had...
But it still works. It's not like it goes to nothing.
Yeah, it doesn't go to nothing, but it's not optimal. It's not what those panels really enjoy, right? We can count in hours, maybe hours on one hand, the number of full sun hours we had that over those 3 days, right? So if your system was able to work and keep everything going, then you have enough battery. Do you have enough battery to run AC?
I don't think it's enough to run AC.
Okay.
I think it'll be enough to run like a diesel heater kit I got for when it's cold. Okay. But for me, the priority was for me, it's worse waking up in the trailer when it's like 40 degrees in the trailer than it is trying to sleep through in the trailer when it's like 80 degrees. Mostly because if it's really hot out, I could just have a few more beers with the guys and I'll get to sleep. I don't have any doubts about that. I really don't like waking up and trying to get going in the morning when it's really cold.
See, I'm the opposite.
But that's a preference thing.
I'm the opposite. So I feel like I'm going to need a dedicated AC bank and then use this system to run the rest of my trailer. Because or the other option is AC is a shore power only thing or a generator only thing, and this is I don't need an extra noisemaker on the front of, tethered out, sitting in front of my truck all weekend to run my AC. Yeah, that has dedicated gas cans for it. That's
you would probably need. Yeah. You can get some more efficient heat pump style, like the mini split stuff that a lot of guys run. Those aren't terribly power hungry, like some of the roof mounted AC units are, but they're still going to draw some power. A good bit more than just lights and a fridge. So, I would think you'd probably need to seriously look at the current draw of those things. See if you can get Hunter or Chris to put a kilowatt on their setup or something. So you get an idea how much those things draw in a day. And then you can size your battery bank to what you need.
And those guys are the best to do it because they do
the cloudy thing.
They do electrical work all the time.
They do it with the mini splits that are more efficient.
They do it with the mini splits, but they're also
they're
wiring
also
nerds,
electrically competent.
So those are the guys.
Yeah. But also, one of the lessons from this weekend for my setup was, if it's going to be rainy, plan on, that battery bank needing to be bigger than you thought it would need to be.
Oh, for sure. Like double.
Because if you're only refilling it at half the rate that, the optimal conditions give you, then you can't really draw it what you would do in the normal optimal scenario.
I mean, that's why I went with 400 watt panel, 400 watts of power, so solar power.
Yeah, I mean, mine are the same.
Right.
Like, I saw 414 watts when I was charging before I got to the track. Because I did at least plug the fridge in the trailer into shore power for a couple of days after I got the panels hooked up, and just made sure that the trailer had a couple of days to top that battery off before we left. Because I know that it's probably not going to keep up, so I try and give it the best chance at success.
Yep. You got, everybody needs to look at what they're going to do and do that kilowatt draw. You need to do the math, right? I mean, I could probably do it by looking at all the information that the products provide. But you got to do all the math so you can size your system right.
Yeah.
And then you got to you have to get into that double it mentality for the weather.
There's a little bit of that. There's some other things that you might want to consider. Like, for me, I didn't realize that the amp output from the charge controller is going to control not just like how you set up the solar panel array electrically, but also why you might want to go to a higher voltage battery. So yeah, I don't need a step down transformer with my current setup. I can run 12 volt stuff direct off the battery and be more efficient. But that limits me in terms of the amount of solar I can put up on that roof. I could probably put 3 or 4 kilowatts of solar panels up on that roof. It's so big. But it can only take 800 watts into a 12 volt battery. So, in hindsight, a higher voltage battery with a step down transformer for the 12 volt would have probably been better and more scalable, like more easily, hey, let's just throw more solar at this thing, than the setup I do have. So that's something that I didn't realize at first, is where the bottlenecks would be. I kind of had an idea, but I didn't understand some of the implications down the line about what that meant in terms of upgrade paths.
Did you look at, I know you got a Renogy controller. Did you ever look at like one of their systems? Because they're sort of complete systems.
I didn't look at their full systems. Full disclosure, I am on like my third solar charge controller.
Okay.
So the first one was from like the $40 Amazon kit I bought, and the solar panel that never made it up on the roof. Mm-hmm. The next one was something I found at work. But it's a very similar product from Renogy. And I kind of tried to see if it would work electrically, and I don't think it can work for the size of panels I have.
Okay.
And so then I bought the Victron, because the Bluetooth capable Victron was a good bit cheaper than the Bluetooth capable Renogy. And I don't have a Renogy battery. So having something that did the same thing as the inverter and spoke the same language just didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, they have, I know this because my dad is doing a van conversion retirement thing, and they have by RV class setups, and I figured like a Class C setup would be fine for our type of application. But they are kind of expensive, so
more than likely, yeah.
When you're talking about the Renogy battery and all that stuff, I mean, you are paying for it. We're recording right now. There's a Memorial Day sale going on. I'm busy looking at it. But yeah, when you're looking at this kind of upgrade, man, you just got to figure out how to size it, right? Like that's the big kicker, it seems.
There's also some features that may or may not matter, like depending on where you are. So like for us, we get below freezing temperatures. Mm-hmm. Lithium-ion battery cells do not like that.
Hate it.
They don't like to either They don't like charging at a certain point, and they don't like discharging at a different point. And they're both kind of low, but we get there pretty frequently in our area. So, plan on hibernating your junk when it's really cold, or running a heater to try and get that thing back into an operating range where it can function.
Right.
The battery I bought has a low temperature protection mechanism built in, because I don't want to kill it, because it was the most expensive part of the system.
And it will be. The battery system will be the most expensive piece of your system, unless you get the charge controller that's absolutely nuts, that monitors your battery, that also controls like the warming mats. So they have warming mats that plug into your charge controller that monitor your batteries and the temperature. It's like one of those big, huge, all-inclusive ones. The brands don't come to mind, but when they get that smart, when they're Bluetooth thing, when they're texting you, when they want Wi-Fi, all that stuff gets super fancy. It gets super expensive really fast. But a mid system or a basic system, the batteries are where the money is going to be. So, and not to get political, but we just started putting more tariffs on China, so that's not going to help any of us.
But you can still save by building your own battery bank. It doesn't look that hard. Most of us are mechanically inclined.
Speak for yourself.
But, you do have to...
I don't do electrics.
It's doable, right? Okay, so I do electric. It doesn't scare me, and I do it all the time. Yeah.
I tried to burn my Integra down to the ground one time, so since then I need a babysitter when I play with wires.
My last house, my garage needed a full gutting and redoing, so I replaced everything, including the electrical panel, and downstream of the electrical panel, because it had its own 100 amp service separate from the house.
You're way more advanced than I am, at least for this stuff, because I would shock myself. I would burn stuff down. I know that's what would occur. Is your trailer insulated and stuff right now?
Yeah, so I did put 1-inch foam insulation in almost all the walls and ceiling. So I think the V-nose part and the first gap is not insulated. Mostly because I'd already built a workbench around that, and a lot of that is held in with self-tapping screws and other fasteners that when they go into metal I consider one-time use. So I didn't really want to pull the workbench out to put the insulation in, so I was 80% of the surface area on this thing is probably going to be a lot better than 0% that I have now. So I left some of it uninsulated. If I had to do it again, I'd do that day one, and then I'd build the workbench. But, sometimes you got to work with the reality of what you've already done.
Yeah. One day.
Having said that, put a workbench in your trailer and put a vise on it.
Yes. Do that.
Because that is always handy.
And not a junky one.
It saved my butt last month, and when I had to do an axle at night, it saved... Kevin Helms was using it, I think on Saturday, to try and see if he could get that wastegate to work. Because sometimes you just need something to hold a thing while you do some drilling or cutting or other work to it, and the vise just really doesn't have an equivalent. For sure.
Do you have any special flooring in your garage, or in your not in your garage, in your trailer yet?
I did the epoxy, one of those epoxy floor coatings for your garage. I put that on the plywood to try and make it a little bit more durable. I got the little friction additive in it. I don't know if it actually does anything in terms of friction on a floor that's not smooth concrete, but that's there. It helps clean up spills, and I'd seen too many trailers where you use it twice and there's just a giant
stain.
Piss stain of oil in the middle where the car sits. They mark their territory.
For sure.
And
especially after we break them.
when you're throwing your but when you're throwing your air mattress down, you don't want it to be on a slick of oil. So having that coated is good. I looked at the coin roll, like plastic stuff. I chose not to do that because it was heavier and more expensive, and I figure it's really easy to add that on top of the epoxy coating. And if the epoxy coating isn't up to my standards, I can always have the option of stepping that up. That's the current setup.
Awesome, man. So, do we have any last minute flyers on Hyperfest or things to consider when you're upgrading your trailer, especially with the solar stuff?
I think we kind of covered all of it. Try to plan out your usage so you don't end up doing it twice. And also kind of plan out what you would need to be able to do to upgrade if, like, you can anticipate there's an unknown component in what you're planning. So think about how you would react to that unknown going not your way and what you would have to change in the system to make that work, or upgrade it to kind of make that all do a better job. Because that can help your process on planning out what you're probably going to need, so that, you might have to add solar panels, but you're not going to replace your battery and your charge controller and half a dozen other things. I'd also say that if you can stick to, don't be afraid of the higher voltage battery bank. A step-down transformer is a lot more efficient than a DC to AC transformer, and then a power supply to go back to 12 volt, which is what I currently do. I lose about 20 watts at idle just for that kind of conversion to happen. Whereas when I run an extra wire from battery direct to 12 volt panel, then, I'll save a good chunk of that.
Yeah, that's good to remember. That's why they have 12, 24, and 48 volt systems, because you get that efficiency. So,
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah, so don't be afraid of the higher voltage battery banks, and plan for growth if you think that's a remote possibility. Even if you tell yourself, I'm going to be disciplined and I'm not going to go for the big system, expect that might happen eventually anyway.
If you're going to put one together yourself, design it for flexibility so you can sort of adapt and upgrade as needed. Like you said, without having to buy lots of new stuff. Just because you needed more solar on the roof doesn't mean, make sure your charge controller can handle it off the break. Because the bigger the charge controller, generally the more efficient they are anyway. So when they handle more input, maybe. Okay. I can be corrected. It's fine.
If they're operating at that higher level, yes. Right? If you have a big system or a big charge controller and it's not operating a lot of watts, it's probably got more overhead than a smaller unit.
Okay. It makes sense to me now, but
like, a lot of electronics are efficient when they're being used, 80 to 100% of their design threshold. At like 20% of their design threshold, they might be crap.
Okay.
Or at very least, you've got overhead to keep those capacitors and whatever else filled and juiced up and doing their thing. And that takes energy, and that doesn't come free. So sometimes sizing appropriately will get you a more efficient system versus going big on something right away. I know I see that in like PC power supplies. If you've only got 600 watts of draw, don't get a 1500 watt power supply thinking it'll be super efficient, because it won't ever be operating in its efficient window.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense now, but you still have to, you're going to have to balance so you can upgrade later,
Yes, that's something to consider. So, are you going to stick with, I want to charge my GoPro and my aim and my flashlights and drills and tools, and maybe have some lights? Or do you want a fridge and AC and air compressors and all the other more high-end electrical draw items. Do you want a freaking coffee maker?
Oh,
That's probably a big one.
the boys can't live without that kind of stuff, so
Yeah.
most people can't.
Right, but like boiling water takes a good bit of energy.
It sure does. All of that heat element stuff takes a lot of energy.
Yeah, like I thought about bringing my smoker out to Hyperfest, and then I was like, wait, it's got a heating element.
Yeah, your battery's going to be
That's a bad
smoked.
idea. If I had, like, if you had a pellet style smoker that just like chews pellets and has maybe a little fan to blow the flame around, like that'd probably work a lot
It's
better.
a fan and an auger system.
But you have to think about the appliances and how they work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to think about the kinds of appliances you're going to run and what their power draw profiles are like. And sometimes you can get away with something that's going to burn some old hydrocarbons and make up the difference for you.
Sweet. Well, I think that's going to be a wrap, man. It was good to see you. You need to start racing your car again. So stop. Well, I don't say stop instructing. Getting that bonus contingency is probably smart on your part, but it's even smarter when you get to use it to go racing. So just remember that part.
I'll see what I can do about getting back on the racing side of things. But thank you again for having me, and till next time, man.
Until next time, keep working on yourself, keep working on the car, and let's get faster.